Hi, everyone. I am Andra Annette, and welcome to this week's session of Healing from the Inside Out. And I have Elisa Palma-Hancock with me today, and I think you're going to love her. So she's a medium, an intuitive coach, and I think that she's been through a lot of ordeals in her life that have really led her to the spiritual concepts she holds very dear. But I think this is a very innate passion, something people just know growing up. So let's have a warm welcome for Eliza and hear more. Hi,
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me.
it's a pleasure. So I'm interested. I kind of knew what I was supposed to do always. I always felt an like an overwhelming connection to people. I could sense what was going on in their body and animals too. So I kind of knew that I'd be in healthcare even as a child, that I'd be doing something. So is this something, Eliza, that you always felt? You just knew this is what you were meant to do?
Yes, I think in many ways. Of course, you realize that when you're way older, sometimes, because you're not really aware of what's going on for you, I think. And I think, maybe you also believe that other people are having the same experiences or that they're, perceiving the world in the same way that you do. And then, at one point you realize that that's not so. And, some people might not maybe feel comfortable around you, or, in perceiving maybe that, um, sorry, can we start over? I just got sidetracked. I don't know what happened. I'm
It's
so
okay,
sorry.
just keep going. People want to know who you are. So just you said people might be uncomfortable around you. So I want to feel into that because they have a sense that you know more about them and that makes them uncomfortable. So when they hear spiritual, people have different concepts of what spiritual really is. And when people tell them they're a medium and they can see things and feel things, that makes people uncomfortable because they're concerned that maybe you know a little too much, maybe some of that bad, and that they're afraid to have those conversations because maybe they're uncomfortable with some things that they've done. So I can definitely relate to that. Because I think we all kind of have that balance or that sense of when someone's handing us a line of crap or not. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, so since I was little, I knew that I was sensing things and perceiving things and seeing things. I've had so many spiritual experiences since I was very, very young. I've received messages through my dreams. I got senses about people, and sometimes people would just come up to me and ask me questions, and I would just, offer perspectives that were probably coming from a deeper part of me, right? Not from that maybe 8 year old or 10 years old or whatever that was level of awareness, clearly. But it took me a while to realize what it was that was going on for me, right? What was it? Because I was lucky enough to have around me a family that mostly was open to it. My grandma helped me a lot. My sister is a little bit like me as well. So that probably helped in not feeling completely, like different. But the real difference was out of my home and into the real world. And what you were saying is so true, that sometimes, this work can be a little bit polarizing because people assume immediately that you go around turned on all the time and that you constantly, perceive and look at what they do, what they think, or how they're feeling, when it's not so, because it actually can be very overwhelming just in general, right? Until you learn how to deal with your sensitivity. And I don't think, I mean, I don't know, maybe there are people that do that, but honestly, I think that it's also like it comes with a big responsibility to be this sensitive. And I'm sure So you definitely don't walk around kind of spying or, wanting to look at other people secrets or fears or, do you see what I mean? But I
Yes.
think that the term can be a little polarizing, and people assume that because you are that sensitive, that automatically you're going to go and pick up something about them. But it's not true. It's not even, healthy to do that all the time, and
No.
nor respectful. So I think that that gives a chance to clarify that we don't want to do that. We don't do that normally, right?
And I think that what you feel at sometimes is stronger than others. So for me with health, I could be on a train and I would know someone was sick and I would know where in the body. And it was very uncomfortable for me because it was never good news that I was getting. It was always bad news that I was reading in and I was finding in their body. And although it helped me a lot in nursing, I could point people to, oh, I think this is kind of going on too.
That's
Let's
great.
look into that.
Yeah.
But people don't really receive bad news well. So you have to find a better way of saying it. And um, I remember a janitor where I worked had Parkinson's. I mean, but the signs are pretty clear too. So I didn't know how much of that was coming from what I was seeing and I was trained or my gut feeling. And
Mhm.
when I initially approached him, he was doing work for me at the time. I said, I think you really need to go get checked. So he wasn't very open to that. And then it was a few months later and he came back to me and told me they put me on medicine and how did you know? What gave it away? So I can, and I'm just feeling certain things. So you on the other hand, might get big flashes of pictures that you see, and even when you don't want them. So I've always been able to control it. I don't have to look if I don't want to. So,
Yeah.
um, but I think that you get flashes even when you don't want to, and sometimes it's of people you don't know. Mine's always been of people like I do know, people that I'm in the presence of. It's never like I've never gotten dreams of something happening to someone else, just myself. So it's got to be uncomfortable to want to be able to turn that off sometimes and not be able to, because they may see it as an invasion of their privacy, but it is in effect an invasion of yours because you
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, because it goes also the other way around. Sometimes you just get those information and you are definitely not looking for them. They kind of just, come to you, maybe because someone has it, something very strong in their energy field. And as soon as they get close to you, you can just pick up on stuff. I have to say, for me, it's never been health related, but mostly I would say probably, spiritually related, about the person's path or about something that was going on for them, specifically in relation to me. Or sometimes, of course, when I work with people, it's just about them, but like spontaneously, like I got a sense when someone was not being honest, or when someone was, like, mm, in an emotional pain and not wanting to show, not wanting to, talk about it or share. So there are so many different layers to that. And as I said, it's been a long process because, and I think that's true for probably most sensitive people, medium, psychics, all of them, just because you have to really learn and discern what is your stuff, because many times you might end up thinking that the turmoil that you're feeling, it's actually coming from you, right? Like all of a sudden you have like these overwhelming feelings and you don't know, you don't think that it might come from someone else until you realize that you are actually picking up on other people's feelings and emotions, right? And so it's like a learning curve to be able to discern and be able also to, as you said, at times, just saying, okay, I don't need to feel this is not mine, and let it go.
I think that over time, those feelings get stronger. And even though you learn more control, I think we feel them more because as we learn about them, for you especially, I'm not a medium by any, so let's just get that clear, guys. I just get these strong feelings. I'm not a medium. But I think for you, because yours is of a spiritual nature, you're going to feel them more intensely than I would. Like my eyes are just drawn to something, like and I don't know why, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to look, and then as I look deeper, I just see what's going on, and I can't always turn away because I'm still a nurse. So that part of me wants to see more, and if I can help. So there's a lot of different layers, like you said, but I think as you get stronger in what you do, you can kind of decide maybe when you'll allow those times, because you do have to let them run in you. You do have to allow that because your spiritual strength is higher than the forces that you're taking. I mean, I don't know where you are with God and stuff like that, but he only gives us what we can handle. So
Mhm.
I don't think that he would have chosen you for these gifts unless he knew that you were a good sanctuary for them, I want to say.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. That's something that I thought about many times over my life, that God really just gives you what she knows you can handle, right? So that's definitely true. That doesn't mean though, because you still have to deal with your humanness, and at times you just there is something that eventually you need to learn, even to deal with, to embrace. Talking about people maybe getting scared or concerned when you tell them that you have a certain kind of sensitivity. Like I had experiences in the past when like I would share something because I was asked. And maybe I remember specifically a friend who over time got mad at me because I would tell her things that she never told me, but like those things were not coming from me. They were just information coming from spirit, and I did not even remember that I told her those things when my reading was done. And I always do it as a play, as a game. And over time she got mad at me, and she started looking at me weird. And those things can be very hurtful, right? Because you start to think, okay, maybe there's something wrong in me. I should not be doing this. I should not, when in fact, if used right, it's definitely a tool to help people and support people. I have seen so many men and women, honestly, like just finding a deep sense of peace because they finally receive that piece of information that they maybe like were longing for all their lives. Like the mother that comes through and tells you, like explains something to you that you have not been able to pinpoint for all your life, and all of a sudden you're at peace. You're like, oh, okay, I had this turned around, or I misunderstood that, and now I feel like finally, I can let go of everything. And I've seen so many men and women, honestly, just transformed by this piece of information that can, it's, in the end, I really believe that's the healing power of true mediumship, to be able to bring that piece of uh, love and uh, inner serenity that we all need, especially when we lose a loved one and we don't have had the time for explanations, right? For making up, for clarifications ever. See what I mean?
I do. So what has been the most difficult part of you for this? Because you've known for since you were a child, and not wanting to have those gifts, like it's like someone tells you, here's your ticket to the lotto, right? And you're excited that you won the lotto, But with that, also a lot of other things come, like people now that maybe weren't your friends want to be your friends, and you're bombarded with, the taxpayers and all these things that you worry, right? All these things, right? So even though it essentially seems like a gift in the beginning, you see that there's a lot of other things that you have to deal with, not just the yay, I have money concept. So that's
Right.
kind of like a lot like being the medium. You have this wonderful gift, but it does have people that who don't understand because they don't certainly have it. Maybe be off-putting with you because they feel an intrusion in their life, or they might feel that you have the ability to see something that they're not willing to share, right? Because some people are very open about other things, and other people will take everything to their grave. That was my mother. She'll take everything to the grave. What happens in this house stays in this house. So you have both sides of that coin. So what was most difficult for you over this time?
For me, like personally in this journey, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think at one point you just have to accept that there are people that are open and they really are, looking for answers. And that's the people that, you will connect with, and people that don't want to know anything about it. And that is their choice. And honestly, what they think this is, it should not be your problem, right? I had to understand that if they don't understand this, there's nothing I can do about it. There is no amount of explanation or um, trying to show, or trying to explain how this works or what it is. So you just have to let it go. And I think, well, that, I definitely had a moment when I was younger where, as I said, right, like my friend was looking at me weird, and she was, I think, probably the only one, but because it was hurtful, I didn't know, what to make with it. And so for a period, I just kept things for myself and for the people very close to me. Um, but then I definitely perceived that something was missing from my life, and I needed to just, let it be what it is. And so I think at one point you just have to be at peace with the fact that, if you don't believe it, if you don't care about it, that's totally okay, right? And you just have to let them people go.
Yeah. And I think that's true of anything. When would you, if you could share an experience of when you were really glad that you can help, because you've helped a lot of people over the years. So when was the time that you were really grateful that this gift, you did have this gift, and you could step in and help in a way that really mattered to someone?
Um, so Um, I recently had a friend losing her father. And she was already maybe in a moment where she was a little bit fragile. And she asked me if it was possible to connect, to get a, like an awareness of him, knowing that he was okay. This is, I think, one of the first concerns that people have when they lose someone they love. And I said, well, it might be a little early, not for the spirit, but for her, for you, because she was definitely very, like
I know.
emotionally.
No, yes.
She was in pain. And even though, she was feeling like that, we were able to connect, and whatever came through, left her in the beginning. She could not make sense of it. And then she went home to her mother, and she found her basically doing exactly what her father in spirit was telling me that her mom was doing. So basically, and she went to visit her mother, and she found her like looking through his old papers, and sitting where, her father was describing me that she was spending most of her time. Um, and then she asked her a few questions, and she found out some details that came through that again her father was telling me, right? Like a receipt for a fish dinner, for example, something very, very specific. And like the moment that she got there, found her mother like that, and look at what she was looking through, and she reconnected with everything I told her. And she just texted me back, and she was like, wow, like I feel in a different place right now, because I feel in close, but I don't know if it's just me. And that just that little, those few things were like the key for her to open up, and to the comfort of knowing my father is near me, is near my mother, and um, we are still together in a sense, right? The
And
love is
have
not
that peace.
gone. Exactly. And so, probably because she's a friend, and we're very close, and that was, even more important to me, that she could get a sense of peace. But there have been many instances, and I have to say, I just not long ago actually started to come out as a medium, actually. Although, as I said, I've had spiritual experiences all my life of all kinds. And I've been delivering messages, even sort of like spontaneously, um, when I could. But as I said, at one point, I realized that that was the thing that was missing from my life. And so I decided to open up to it and make something of it. And that's been very rewarding. But because, like I think that there is an actual time where you just spend inside the closet, where probably other people can even understand that like you have some sensitivity that lets you access certain kind of messages, but it's like you're hiding from yourself. Yeah, I don't know if you understand what I mean.
I do. I think that we're in a very odd time in the world. We have a lot of people talking about limiting beliefs, a lot of people talking about abundance. And when they're talking about abundance, they're talking about the spiritual aspect of it. So a lot of people talk about it, but they really don't know what that is. There's a lot of people that live in ego, and you can't be in spirituality if you live in ego, which you just described. You have to let it go and say, if people don't get it, they don't get it. But if you're always in ego, then you're out of spirit, because they don't coincide on the same plane, right? So they just don't. I mean, God's way and ego, they're very separate. Ego is human, spirituality is not. That's of the Father. So but I think that because people are starting to open to this ability has always been here, and it's us that cause all this unknowing, you know, I think they're starting to be more open to the medium and the powers that we do have, because we all do have powers. I mean, I help people heal, but everybody has the ability to heal themselves when they tune
Mhm.
into that part of themselves. They just don't understand that. And when I say that, they think of me as some crazy lady, right? But
Yeah,
that
but
doesn't mean I'm not going to tell them that you have to look inside, right? And all of your answers. So many people look outside of themselves for those answers. Like, I was that woman in that 300-pound body with autoimmune diseases and leaky gut and all those things, but nobody could have helped me until I did that inner work. And that's when I was able to help myself, when I saw that I had directly created that world by the things I was doing in my current worlds, right? So, so you do have to kind of forgive and do that work. It doesn't happen if you don't. So, um, I like what you do. I like how do you go about getting yourself out there? How do you connect with people? Is it always people in your circle that comes to you, or Are you online where people could reach? Because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people would connect to what you're saying.
Yes, no, I am online. I do have a website with my name, which is Elisa Palma-Hancock. I do use social media. I'm starting to try and use it a little bit more often because I have not relied on social media a lot up until lately. But like Facebook, for example, and yeah, mostly Facebook and my website, and the rest is kind of building up a little.
I'm gonna after this, I'm gonna send you something that is a lot the best in social media. It's just not really, a lot of people don't know about it yet, but we're working on changing that as we speak.
Oh,
It's probably the all in all best for business because it's run by professionals that are interested in growing their business and bringing other people with them. So it really is about community. You hear a lot about people that are growing their business, and you can't have an I in team. Where part of our mission here on earth is to help each other raise ourselves up to a higher level. We're part of this bigger entity. And when we only see ourselves in that mix, we're stuck there.
yeah.
Does that make sense? But when we become part of the whole, we're that much stronger. I mean,
Oh,
that's just the way I look at things, but people probably think I'm crazy too. But I know that when I'm working with someone else to help in whatever way I can. But you have to be willing to accept that help too. When people say, I can help you, you have to say, all right, what do you got? You have to you have to be willing to accept and receive, so because that there is that law of reciprocity. Always have difficulty with that word. So
yeah, no, I
always.
know it's so true. Like you definitely need to have, I mean, it's easier if you have people around you that are on a similar journey and because you help each other out and you feel less alone. And it becomes easier. It just is so much better. So I totally understand community whenever you're trying to build something, and especially like a business that is in the business of helping other people. So there is a lot that goes with it. It's not just, I don't know, selling, you know um
A lot of people feel that you have to be better at sales. And I don't think it is about sales. I mean, because we all sell ourselves every day when we show up for work and we're helping people and we're doing what we're doing. So, but when you're in the business of service, as a service provider, if I'm speaking to someone I know that can use your help, it doesn't make sense that I would try to get them in my program when they really need yours, right?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of where that comes in, that community and getting to know people, because it doesn't really serve anyone if you're not really serving the person you're out here to help, right?
Yes,
So
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
so they can find you at Elisa Palma Hancock.
.com, yes, or on Facebook. I also am starting to probably will teach some local workshops here where I live in Florida, in Sarasota, because I have been missing a little bit being more with the people. Doing all these things online can be, very, very easy because you don't have to leave your house.
Oh
But at
yeah.
the same time, you get to a point where you miss being together with people. That's something that I really like to do as well. I love to teach spiritual stuff. So that is something I will do as well. Um,
I'd love to take part in it. So let me know when you set those up.
okay, sure. That'd be
Yeah, I'd
great.
love that.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So if you could give the audience any insight in what they can really do when they're feeling maybe not in spiritual alignment, what they can do to really help them really get back to that place.
Yes, that is such a good conversation to have.
Maybe for another show. It's a long one, right?
We could talk, yeah, a full hours about this, but I think one way, well, certainly meditation helps
Mm.
because it helps with everything. And even if you do 5 minutes a day, over time, it's going to build up. And what it helps with specifically is to learn to listen to your higher self more and better. I firmly believe that when people are off how can I say, like when they're not aligned, when they feel, off track, and or when they fall back into, I don't know, the complaining, the feeling victims, etc., they are definitely in the ego, right? As we were saying before. I mean, the ego is something that we all have. We needed to deal, with the everyday stuff. But the problem is when we get sucked in that space where everything is just small and tiny, and it's always going to stay that way because the ego just wants to protect us and keeps us safe.
It
And
doesn't protect us, though. It just wants to live, and the only way it can do it is to keep us small.
yeah, well, it's a issue many times, and we all have gone through, our form or forms plural of trauma, right? So it's a way to say, if I stay in what I know, then at least I'm going to live like this, right? I'm going to be living like this, but it's not feeling really alive. I think that when you start to open up to your spiritual self, that more life gets in. And I think that meditation for, you don't need to do hours every day, but even just 5-10 minutes, it's really like helping to build that inner silence so you can listen to the voice of your higher self as opposed to listen to the voice of your ego that just speaks about, in the language of fear, the language of limitation, the language of kind of like protecting, defending, and everything that honestly just keeps you closed instead then open up.
That's great. I love your answer. I
Thank
love
you.
that. So we're going to close the show out, and please help me thank Elisa for coming in and sharing her insights. I think you're going to be an inspiration to a lot of people, and feel free to contact her at her website. And if you just say that again for me, please.
Sure. ElisaPalma-Hancock.com.
And thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a great day.